Hey guys, how's it going? I'm in the process of just servicing someone's riding mower, and it's a John Deere 120, 100, and it's running a Intech Briggs motor, and it has a problem with trying to get up over the hill when you're trying to crank it, get up over the compression stroke. And so I figured I'd make a little video of what it takes to go cure that. I'm not quite sure what is causing it on this one right now, but I'm going to go through the steps of what it would take. First off is the battery. I do know is junk. I left it charged on a trickle charger overnight, and it charged up to about 13 volts around there. And then I tried doing a crank on, and right after it was down to about 12 volts, and that's after a very short crank. So I know the battery is no good. That will get replaced, but I am running a jumper pack, which should more than be enough to start this motor, and it still has a problem. So I'll just give you a little show of kind of what's going on. To do it. And that's the problem right there. So I had a hard time trying to get up over the hill. Now, of course, you know, the common stuff is going to be the electrical. Not having enough oomph to run the starter and the relay and all that. But another problem that is common on these is the valve adjustment. The valve adjustment being too loose. There is a built-in decompression valve on the camshaft that's supposed to, at slower speeds, allow it to again get up over that hill without having to have that problem. So that is my main suspect. So we are going to pop that valve cover off and take a peek and see what we have for adjustments on that. Alright, so I looked up that motor just for the valve adjustment specs, and it's a 3100 single cylinder OHV, and it's telling you what the intake and exhaust valves should be, and it's telling you between 03 and 05 for the intake and 05 and 07 for the exhaust. Just pan up, you can see it up there, and that's the site that it's on. Alright, so we are going to check, and I already have checked to see what they are. And what I am mostly concerned about as far as the issue is the intake valve. So the valve cover is off, and if you're looking at the motor, you can see how this valve lines right up with the exhaust. So that's your exhaust valve. And if you look at the intake, you're like, well, that comes into the top. But if you look at the casting in the background, I'm talking about that right there, you notice it kind of drops down on the angle. So that's on your intake side. The spark plug is out right now, and I used my 1/4-inch extension just to rock the motor back and forth to make sure the piston is all the way up. I'll show you that in a minute. On top dead center, and it's on top dead center without the valves moving. If the valves are moving, you got to go another round of 360 and get the motor on its compression stroke. So that's what it is right now, and that is your intake valve, and it is at, you get drag on that, and that is, my thing's dirty, at 009. So it is out of spec. Let's go show you some other stuff now while I have you. Set you up on a stand. I don't know how well it's going to show, but what I want to try to attempt to show you is the hop of the valve, and that is going to be the decompression. Probably better off trying to hold you. So I'm just going to spin it by hand, and what we're going to be looking for is, as this is kind of going around, you'll see at one part of the stroke it does a little bump. I'm not going to be able to hold you guys and do this correctly. You see that I'm rocking it back and forth. You see that little, let me see if I can get you a little bit more stable. That I'm talking about right there. That, if you see that, then you know internally your decompression valve is still working, that little bump. If that was not there, then you have an internal issue and you're not going to get it to go away, and you're just going to have to do the best you can without tearing the motor apart, or you tear the motor apart and put a cam kit in it. But we're not going to get into that because ours is not doing that. So let me get it set back up on top dead center. Plop it down. I'm just putting something in the plug hole that's not going to cause any damage, something that's smooth. Again, 1/4 inch extension is fine. And I'm watching the valves, making sure they're not rocking. And I'm at the top of how far this is coming out of the cylinder. So that right there, my valves are both loose, is where I need to go and adjust the valves. I need to go get myself an Allen wrench and a regular wrench to adjust the nuts. I'll turn you back on in a second. Yeah, I can see if I can capture this without my big hands being in the way. It's still at top dead center on the compression stroke, and I got an Allen wrench and a 10mm. Now you would think that you would have to turn the wrench to crack it loose and adjust the center. That's not quite how it goes down. You actually have to crack the Allen wrench loose, and then yeah, you're good. Then you can adjust the outside. Is your adjustment to where your play is. I am going with 3/1000 on my feeler gauge. It's going to be on the low side of the spec because I want on the tight side of the spec because I'm looking to make an improvement due to what the issue is. I'm just trying to get the drag to feel just about right. And it should be enough to where the it's enough to hold the feeler gauge without it falling out, which is, it's just kind of like on the limit there, because if you can continue to crank it, you could actually push the spring in and you're actually having no compression. And then afterwards you should be able just to take it and rock it just a hair and feel a little bit of play in it, which I do. So that's that guy. I am also going to go and turn around and do the top one on the exhaust while I'm here. And what was our spec on that? 5 to 7? 5 to 7. So won't we call that one 5? Let's see what that one is. That's very loose too. I want to say that feels like it's about probably about 12. Doing the wrong thing, loosening the wrong thing. Did you see it? A little on the loose side so that you can see how it still wants to fall out. Plus my feeler gauge is a little on the beat up side right there. And sometimes when you go and you tighten the screw up, it gets looser. And if that's the case, yeah, see, it's still loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to overshoot it a little bit. I'm going to go down, give it a little bit more, and then tighten it. Yeah, I'll go with that. It feels good. So now we're going to put the plug back in it, put the valve cover back on it, and we're going to go see if that takes care of our crank issue. Alright, so I got the valve cover back on, and I left the plug off of it. We just want to try and see what we get for the getting over the hump. Index sounds a little noisy too. So yeah, seems to be some weather improvement. Seemed like it almost did it every time before, and now seems to be fighting a little bit less. But a couple of things I want to go and look into. One is going to be right here, is the stud going into the starter. Of course, the battery top terminals and the solenoid, but the stud on the starter. What does that look like? 12mm? 7/16 to 12. What do you guys think? Let's grab a 7/16 and a 12. All right. Nope. 7/16. And what I'm going to try and do, of course I'm doing this one-handed, is a lot of times that will be tight, but what happens is behind it, especially if it's been getting heated up over time, is this one. See how loose that is? And what there is on the inside of the starter, there's another set of contacts back in there, and it starts getting some play in between there, and can cause a high resistance location. So we'll put that back together. Okay. And of course, check the solenoid contacts, the 2 battery contacts, and then the one that everybody seems to forget is the other end of the ground, because it's kind of hard to see, is that on this one is pretty rusty, so I could zoom it in. And that stud right there, you see all the rust that's on there. So I'm going to go pull that out of there, clean that up with a wire wheel, and take care of that one too, because that will cause you just as much problems as a bad battery terminal would too. So let me get that apart and cleaned up and see if that helps us. And it's one of those times you need like 3 hands. Well, that is a self-tapper, and that's out of there. And I'm trying to show you the actual hole where that came out of. Not sure if that's coming up. Alright, if you can see around there, you can see where it's kind of shiny, but it's shiny with paint, and then there's rust in the center of that. So I'm going to get to do my best to get in there to scrape some of that down to bare metal, and put some dielectric grease on it, or even if you don't have, just go with some regular grease. The eyelet doesn't look too bad. It's got some corrosion on it. And some on the bottom too. So we're going to go clean all that up, and then the screw. You know, it's pretty shiny, but again, we're going to clean that up too. Most of it just being where I'm saying the paint is on the deck. They didn't exactly mask that away to make a nice contact, or it looks like they're relying on the contact point through the bolt. So I'm going to go get that cleaned up and taken care of. Alright, so that ground's all back together. I didn't bother doing the 200 battery yet, because I am going to go purchase a new battery and get that replaced in this unit. But let's see where we are. It does sound better. Starter's a little on the noisy side from the Bendix, and that's a different issue on itself. You won't replace that unless that fails. But it does sound like it's spinning a lot better. So hopefully this helps some of you guys out in the future. So, you know, generally if you're looking this topic up, you're looking into the problem. Again, the most common one that I see is going to be the valve adjustment and the tightness of that guy inside there. Generally, it's the tight valve gets hard to get over the hill, and then the starter starts overheating because everybody holds it against that one position and it's fighting it. This gets hot, and then this connection gets loose. So, and then of course the other battery connections and battery quality. And one other thing is just to make sure that you don't have any belts that are dragging on the pulleys and causing the motor to have a hard time turning over because of that. So just make sure that, you know, your mower deck belt and your tractor neutral belt, which is up top, is not causing a lot of drag on the system. So again, thanks for watching, and comment, subscribing, and good luck with your machine.